Thank you so much for staying with us, everyone. The new NBA president said, "We commend the efforts of the Economic and Financial Crimes Institution for the work it is doing and for its modest achievement. However, going forward, the NBA must demand the reform of the institution itself." Brings Ben IKANI here is a prosecutor with the EFCC. Well, as it stands now, do you think, just as Mr. Mahmoud has asked there, do you think that the EFCC needs a reform?
Well, I thank you, Shegu. But the issue is that Mr. Mahmoud is my president of NBA, and I have a lot of respect for him. And like he said, this is the democratic setting. Everybody is entitled to his own opinion. Personally, I haven't been a prosecutor all my career. It may interest you that I should know the details about prosecution in all its ramifications. I started prosecuting right from 1990 with NDLA. And as a matter of fact, I rose to become Assistant Director of Prosecution in NDLA. And I've been Attorney General of a state. And I know the workings of an Attorney General and a prosecutor. The essence of the issue is that the law that created the EFCC had given it prosecutorial powers. Section 12, Section 13. You see
because before we go deep, the question I asked you first is, if the EFCC needs to reform, that's the basics of what Mr. Mahmoud was asking for. That is perhaps, let's take it one after the other. Do you think the EFCC needs reforms?
Well, EFCC, like any organization, needs continuous, positioning. But the fact for
you don't agree with the word reform?
No, entirely reform now.
Is the FCC perfect in its shape and its form as it stands right now?
No organization is perfect.
But do you now think that it does need the reforms?
Yeah, but the reformation it should need is to enhance its power.
You think that its powers need to be reviewed?
No, because in any reviewed, yes, I may agree with it, because it could be increased but not decreased in any way.
Why? Because look, over 14 or 12 years that in the existence of the EFCC, has there been a time or a moment in history of the EFCC when its activities has been reviewed by one organ of the state or not?
No, actually, within a growing organization, depends on the leadership. There must be some area of reformation. But for somebody to talk about withdrawing the prosecutorial power of EFCC is what I disagree with Mr. President.
If EFCC's roles will be added to, which organ of the state has the power to do that? The powers to do that?
It's the legislature.
Has there ever been such a move in the history of the EFCC?
Of course, there have been a series of amendments to the laws of EFCC. If I can give you the historical background,
to upscale it.
Yes, of course, because recently, if you know very well, the Money Laundering Act Act was amended and given some EFCC some power. The NFIU proposition before, as it came in, now it has been properly situated in the EFCC, and that is what it should be. And some other retouching to the law. But for a submission that the essence of any criminal administration of criminal justice is investigation and prosecution. And if the prosecutory power should be reduced to some extent, it will be
the EFCC is the judge and the prosecutor most of the times, investigator in its own case most of the times.
Oh, no, that is wrong. That's the perspective that the public needs to be properly educated. It does not follow. We have in legal maxim that nemo judas ikaswasa. That means you should not be a judge in one case. What the EFCC is doing a presentation of its case, which is from investigation, and it is the prosecutors that are present before the court. And it should know the functionality of actually pursuing criminal administration of criminal justice is the effective function of the executive. And if we are running a government whereby we have the legislature, we have the executive, we have the judiciary. The EFCC, the police, everybody assembles cases together to make sure there is no crime in the society. And what they do, all of us go before the court to present our case. So it's not an issue that...
It looks like the EFCC is even afraid of its own shadows, because if EFCC do think that it needs more powers, yes, some people believe that the EFCC is becoming rather unbearingly powerful, such that it's difficult now to review and to monitor and to administer externally on the roles of the agency.
No, you should be careful the way we use the word monitor. If an agency has statutory powers, which the law in this and the parliament in its wisdom has, itemized for it, and it is following it properly, you don't need any external supervision.
You think the EFCC is absolutely following the law properly?
Of course.
There are cases where the EFCC has detained people over the time stipulated by law, and a lot of outcry out there that, well, everybody applauds the present government for wanting to fight corruption, but keeping people who are not yet charged beyond the limits of the law brings a lot of concern, don't you think?
Yeah, I agree, but let me tell you one thing categorically. The only body that can give that reportage or that situation of the other EFCC are detained people beyond, it's only the judiciary.
But the EFCC has lost cases in this regard before.
On issue of detention?
Of this issue of detention.
I disagree.
Oh, in the issue of Ekiti State recently, yes, I mean, there was a judgment on that the EFCC has infringed on the right of the man that was kept.
Okay. Has it gone through the cycle of a judiciary?
But in the first case of approach of the court,
it's not total.
The EFCC lost
it's not total, but the EFCC is going upstairs too. And that is why there are hierarchy of courts. It is when it is final, the finality in a judicial practice is the Supreme Court. And that becomes the law. And becomes the position of law at that material time. But in a situation where court of first instance, in its own wisdom, passes a judgment that EFCC had either over-detained, wait until we get to the finality. And at any rate, let me tell you, section of the Constitution that gives this limitation to when to arraign any suspect, if you are interpreting it, you must take into cognizance what we call administrative workability. And in law, it is a principle. So therefore, if that 48 hours is not met, and there is any reasonable, and who determines that reasonability is the third arm of government, not the judiciary.
Don't you think it's rather irrational sometimes when the EFCC picks someone up and it keeps the person in its custody for a long time, you begin to question the ability of the agency in its investigative roles when you keep people unnecessarily for days? I mean, before you pick up anybody, shouldn't you have had your full information before you do that?
You see, Mr. Shegu, let me tell you, the issue is when somebody says from a subjective point of view.
Not subjective this time around.
Subjective.
No, Mr. IKANI,
yes,
the fact remains that if you are going to pick someone up, you probably have done your investigation.
And that is
you must have been sophisticated enough
that is the practice.
as a 21st century investigative agency, yes, to know even before you pick the person, even before you start questioning the person. But when you now keep the person for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 3 months, don't you think that questions the abilities of the agency?
The position you are postulating is not 100% correct. It depends on who is mounting it at that time. Let me tell you this too. The fact is that these people in EFCC are well trained, well exposed. Imagine the present leadership. Do you know how long? Have you ever, do you care to find out his antecedent in the police? He has been a very straightforward person, and he knows his own. These are the kind of officers we see in EFCC.
We're not talking about personality.
No, I'm coming.
We're talking about the institution itself.
But who runs the institution?
If you are in a system, yes, that is structured effortlessly by law, you are bound to perform your duties based on the structure of the system, yes, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. So now, if the EFCC stand on two basic roles, investigation and prosecution, and the president of the NBA is saying, look, the EFCC is recommending that the EFCC be limited to investigation, is anything wrong with that?
Yes, because one, I will approach it from different angle. It is unheard of. No jurisdiction does it. I am a comparative lawyer. I've done it as a criminal lawyer. I will tell you, in UK, the practice we adopted is the same thing. in US, even FBI and the rest of them, you cannot say somebody else will investigate and a different part. Do you know that the working of investigation includes even involve the lawyers, the prosecutors? You guide them, because when you go, all of you are preparing your case together, the only person that should not be a judge over his case.
Mr. IKANI, we need to take a short break. And when we return, the EFCC Prosecutorial will tell us just how far has the EFCC gone in the last 1 year or so. Join us again.